think we're live. I think we're live for the first time in like 3 weeks. We're here.
I think we are live now.
Oh man, copyright
seem to
strike is
be-
coming down.
There's 0 people
I know.
watching.
So we're just. Oh, now there's 4. There's 4. So hey everybody. If you're just joining, which I think probably are because we just started, welcome to our weekly, hopefully going forward weekly live stream / podcasts. You can watch it live on YouTube. You can rewatch it on YouTube, and you can also listen to this episode on your favorite podcast platform the day after, right, Elon? That's normally
Correct.
Wednesday. Is there like a time that you normally post that?
6 a.m. something time. I don't know if it translates to Eastern Standard Time or what, but pretty early.
Oh,
regardless.
Pretty early. Well, at least if someone's on the way to work or whatnot in the morning, that's at 6 a.m. That's specific, right? California time.
Specific. No, I don't know. It's I can't remember on Podbean if it's like GMT, like it's something.
Hey, we got some people saying hi in the comments. Hello, let's go. Oh, Siphonics is scheduled for 30 minutes from now. I'll rewatch. Well, we are going to talk about you a lot while you're not here.
Yeah, little did you know, this is all about Siphonics audio.
Yeah, his love for AI will be dragged through the mud. Van Williams, hey, what's going on? Welcome. Mosen, hi from Australia. Yes. Hopefully you're not breakdancing down there and down under. I had to say it.
I feel bad for her, but I mean,
I know, but also you put yourself out there and you don't do it. For some reason, Corey Feldman has been showing up a lot in my Instagram feed. And I'm just like, this guy's out of his mind.
Yeah.
Out of his mind, which is great because we're going to be talking about 2 other people tonight that may be potentially out of their minds. Not us. We know we're out of our minds, but.
Well, hey, somebody, Adam Steinbacher says, "Hi guys, just got out of my mom's basement per Jim Cameron's request."
That is awesome. I'm so glad you finally got out of your mom's basement.
Yay! Thanks for joining.
I'm so glad about that. Yeah. So say hi to a couple more people. Is it Stefan? I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. But he's tuning in from Ottawa, Canada. Thank you so much for showing up here. Yellow from the Canadian West Coast. Well, I can't. Okay, guys, I'm still getting over COVID, so forgive any. I'm just blaming everything on that. So yeah. Somebody said they're totally bummed at the moment. Oh, I'm getting over an ear infection that has messed up my hearing. I don't even turn on my surround sound anymore. That really sucks.
Wow. It's the year of ear infections. Remember I had one.
Yeah, you did.
A couple live streams ago I was talking about.
Yeah. Well, if it's any consolation recreational, my wife currently has COVID and cannot smell or taste anything. She's lost all sense of smell and taste, so that's fun. I thankfully never lost full sense or full taste or smell. But mine's finally coming back. So awesome. So yeah, Elon, it's been a few weeks. I've had stuff going on. You've had stuff going on. So what's going on? What's been going on with you in the past few weeks? I know we've kind of chatted over text, but are you working on anything new? Are you excited about something or not excited about something?
Yeah, I'm trying to get through. I've got another, because I reviewed the LTV 2500 projector from AWOL, but I also need to review. Well, I've shot the talking head and everything, but I need to edit the video for the 3500 Pro, the
Hmm.
flagship projector.
And you
And
did the smart blinds video too.
I just released a smart blinds one that not a lot of people watched because as I tried to tie it in with home theater by, you're setting the mood by having
Yeah.
a cinematic dark room, and especially with a projector.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. That's one of the, I don't know. We can discuss this later, but it's just a little um how do you put it? Just a little disappointing how if I try and, venture just outside of home
Break out of the
theater
mold a little bit. Yeah.
just a little bit, that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
algorithm basically punishes me for it. So it's like, hmm. Like you establish yourself in one very specific niche, and then YouTube says you got to stick to that niche or else.
Yes. I love this right here. I set Google to close mine when I say movie time. It's awesome. I actually have that same phrase on my Echo Dot that turns off all my lights.
Oh, nice.
I literally say movie time and it's just like, and it's like ready to go. That made me laugh. Yeah, I think that's definitely hard. Trying to kind of go outside the mold of, what your audience maybe expects. I don't know. I think blinds are definitely lighting is definitely an integral part of a home theater. It's something, it's kind of like it's often not talked about. I do feel like it's talked about more than like acoustic panels. Like acoustic panels are like the last thing people like acoustics are the last thing people talk about, right? But
Yeah.
lighting is often be like, oh, I want to get some lights for behind the TV, or I want to get some type of smart system set up so when I like use my voice, I can turn everything off, or if I have a Control 4, I can just have it programmed so like when I want to watch a movie, the lights dim down and all this stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I think blocking light out in a room that needs a projector is very important.
Mhm.
Even if it's not a projector, if it's just TV, like it, we have the big 85-inch Hisense TV in our living room, which we just have some blinds. And even on like a really bright day at max brightness, it's still having to compete with all that light coming in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah, that I'm sorry to hear that the video didn't do well, and it's always the ones that we spend the most time on too. It
I know.
seems like, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's still cool though. I think it's now out there for people to find it, and if they want to find it,
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows if I'm sure you've had the same thing where like literally you post a video and it doesn't do well, and then like 6 months later, suddenly it gets like a huge spike, and you're like,
Yeah.
what just happened?
Where did this come from?
And suddenly it clicks with people. It's strange, but that's the nature,
Yeah.
of it, right? I think that's not to get too far into it, but that's what's hard about trying to run YouTube as a business instead of
Yeah.
just personal things. So if we're trying to pump out content and that content is ultimately paying us through ad revenue or brand deals or whatnot, it can still be difficult to kind of go outside of what your audience wants of you and expects of you to kind of just experiment.
Yeah.
But I totally feel you.
Yeah. It is what it is. But
Yeah.
and I knew it probably wasn't gonna do that well, but I
Yeah.
didn't think it would do that bad. So but the contact that I have from the blinds company said she really enjoyed it. So I was like, all
Yeah.
right, cool. Thanks.
Well, your production quality is always top notch anyway. So
Oh,
I'm just saying. So yeah, you got anything else going on, or is that just kind of like
right now I'm editing my review of the in-ceiling speakers that I put in not too long ago.
oh yeah.
Finally getting around to that. Because that was a huge ordeal, kind of back and forth. You'll see it in the video. So, hopefully, I think that's going to be scheduled for this Friday. So, look forward to that, ladies and gentlemen.
That's awesome.
But after that, I still have the Sony Bravia 8 OLED TV just sitting in my theater. I
Yeah.
haven't even hooked it up or turned it on or anything yet, just because I've been busy with other stuff. So can't wait to get that ball rolling, because I want to get the Sony TV and then probably like talk about IMAX enhanced on Disney Plus, since I'll finally be able to do that through the
Yeah.
Sony TV. At least how to access it, if it does sound any better than Dolby Atmos, whatever. And then I've got the Wim Ultra streamer that I have yet to unbox and everything. So I'm trying to get those all done before Cedia in September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably won't be going to that, unfortunately. I don't think I can swing it this year. But yeah, that's awesome that you're going. So you're definitely like, have you booked your flights and stuff for Cedia?
Yeah. Book my
Heck yeah, dude.
flight. And I'll be at first I thought I was just, gonna have to bite the bullet and get an expensive hotel room. But luckily, Chana, Techno Dad, reached out to me and he's like, I got like a really expensive room right across the street from the convention center, but I don't really want to pay that much. I mean, he already paid for it, but he's like,
Yeah,
do you possibly want to go halvesies on it? So yeah, I'm gonna be bunking with Techno Dad at Cedia. So that'll
that's
be
awesome,
fun.
man.
Yeah.
Save you some money in the process too.
Yeah, because just the fact that it's across the street, I literally have to just walk across the street to the convention center, which is awesome. And I'll be paying less than if I just got a room on my own at some hotel that's even further away. So it's gonna be great.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
Can ELEN play a quick ditty on that Baby Grand? Maybe
No.
later. Maybe the intro's already getting a little long, right?
Maybe later.
Maybe later.
Yes.
But AA did say that ELEN has great production quality, even if he's doing a topic I'm interested in. I'm not interested in. I still tune in on my 7 channels to hear that based in the videos. That's true.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's like, hey guys, I'm ELEN Osborne. That's all I can say. Although last week, I think if we live streamed last week, because we canceled, dude, my voice, like, I sent you a voice message.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that morning, I woke up, I could hit the lowest note I've ever been able to hit. I was so like, my voice was, I was like, I could be blue, I could be green, I could be, that stupid
Right,
song that
right.
everybody sings, and then they do like harmonies on top of it. Yeah, that was not fun. That was not fun. My wife lost her voice for like 2 or 3 days, so that was,
Oh no.
yeah. But we're kind of back on the mend now with every slowly but surely getting better.
Yay.
Yeah, I was telling you before we started, I'm currently editing video 4 of 9 that I shot with Audioholics at Audio Advice Live
Yeah.
in Raleigh, and basically I'm getting through that. I did shoot one video with SVS for this channel, if those are watching on Home Theater Gamer. So I will have a video out at some point from SVS. But basically, once I'm done with these videos for Audioholics, I've kind of taken a step back from like kind of editing for other people, and I'm really going to focus on my channel again. My wife and I are starting our own channel, which I can talk about later, but yeah, really kind of bringing the focus back to this channel, because it's honestly slipped since I started shooting and editing, because I just don't have the time. Like, it's either try to make these videos as quick as possible, and like, I don't know, my brain can't brain when I want to do that. It just doesn't want to. So I had to make the decision to step away from doing like freelance stuff for other people. I had 2 other clients that I was like editing stuff for too, that not related
Oh,
to
wow.
YouTube at all.
Yeah.
And so I had already like left them like a month ago. Like, I was like, hey, this is going to be it. Like, after this video, And yeah, so you know, and it's not even like a money thing. It's just like I'm not kind of I just want to focus on other things, you know. I want to actually put more time back into my channel. Like everybody's like, "Hey, where's the new mini DSP video?" It's like I don't have the time to shoot and edit this. Like the shooting takes a long time, and then the editing part takes a long time. So, but yeah, I currently have 3 videos completely shot that are just sitting in Final Cut, waiting to be edited. So we have the Sofa Baton unboxing and setup. I was just sent this past Friday the Arvolution Player One 8K.
8K.
Bro, that thing, the preliminary overall impressions after using it. I set it up Sunday, shot and you know, did an unboxing and setup video. Coming from an NVIDIA Shield, this is like a completely different world. I mean, it should be like a $900 player. But yeah, put in an 8 terabyte drive, just slotted it in like super easily. Super fast, super quick. Video quality is awesome. I mean, I can't say for certain that I've noticed a huge step up from like the NVIDIA Shield. I've read reports that it is better, but I need to do more testing. We've just been watching like some TV shows and stuff. But yeah, man, like I'm really stoked to have that in my system now. Like it's been kind of the NVIDIA Shield has been kind of like a pain in my butt for a long time. It's a jack of all trades, master of none. It does things really well in certain aspects, but as like a server media player, it just so many issues. So
with the Shield.
With the Shield, yeah. With the Arvolution, I've not had a single issue other than it not recognizing a couple of files, which is kind of common for media players to be like, or not when I say recognize, it'll play them back, but it's not grabbing the right cover art for it. Like it's flagged as like something else, and that's fixable. So you can go in and tweak it, and that's the only thing I've really had to do. It gives you all sorts of information on the interface. It's really cool. Like you can bring up info and see like real-time bitrate stats and you know,
nice.
even the version of Dolby Vision that a file may be using.
Ooh, nice.
So when you actually go to the movie file, I mean, I'll cover this in like the full review and everything, but like when you go to the movie file, it will tell you, you know, is it 4K? Is it HD? Is it you know, SDR? Is it HDR? Is it HDR10 plus? Is it Dolby Vision?
Whoa.
It'll even tell you the max Atmos layout that it will support. So like some movies are 9.1.6, some movies are 9.1.4. It'll list all of that stuff right there so you can easily see it. And that's just stuff that like through Plex and stuff on the Shield I never got. So I'm really, really loving it. Yeah. And the company was just like, yeah, we'll send you one. No problem. So you know, they're not paying me anything, but I do get to keep it once I'm done with it. So yeah, look for content on that. And yeah, now we're like 20 minutes in. So sorry about the long intro, guys. It has been a few weeks, so we're just kind of catching up and everything too. Thanks for sticking by, and we're going to dive into the conversation here. If you have just a question at all, feel free to ask away. It really helps us if you put a GQ in front of the question, or just a Q, something like a capital Q or capital GQ, and ask away. It just helps us be able to see it. You can also put TQ for like a topical question. I think it may be time we maybe retire that. I don't see many people using it, so
yeah, true.
I think it's just too much. So let's not even worry about that. So yeah, put a Q or a GQ, and we will be able to flag your comments and be able to show them more quickly. Also, real quick, not required, but highly recommended. Super chats and super stickers. No, these are not we love that you guys are here just by showing up. You've shown your support more than enough. If you feel like further showing your support to either one of us, and you want to throw us a super chat, that would be awesome. We always try to answer all the comments or all the questions anyway. So like we're not just going to prioritize like these people paid $2. We're gonna, No, it's just about, you guys like what we do. You want to show us a little love. That's a way you can do it. But anyway, so we had actually, I don't even know what the hell that was, that little noise. It was not a burp. It was just my voice. No, so we've been talking about this topic a few weeks ago. We were actually going to do a stream, and then it was the day before I was flying out to North Carolina, and I was like, I just can't. Like, I had to leave at 3 a.m. and I didn't realize that until like the night before. So so fun. But basically, the gist of it is James Cameron and Peter Jackson. We'll kind of focus on James Cameron, but Peter Jackson was one of the first to really use AI for some sort of remastering process. He did it on the Beatles Get Back on Disney Plus. So if you want to see really, really egregious, bad looking 16 millimeter footage from like the 60s or 70s or whenever it was, go check that film out. I would classify all of that footage to be highly unwatchable. If anybody's out there has seen it, it just looks like mushy. I don't there's no grain. They've like removed all the grain. It's made all like, you can't even, like, someone's hair just looks like a few different pieces of it, like Ringo's like hair. Like at one point I was like, is he wearing a wig? Like what is happening? Like it looks in points it almost looked like a watercolor painting or something. Like it was just not good.
Does everyone have dreadlocks?
Yeah, what the heck? And like there are parts where like people were smoking in the studio, and like you could see the puffs of smoke come up, and it would like morph and like deform like the things behind. I don't know what was going on.
Oh yeah.
It looked really funky.
I mean, kind of like how like all these AI video clips you see nowadays on social media, where everything is just kind of morphing into each other and spilling out of each other. Like, it's like that's what happens when you put it in the hands of a computer.
And I think that is that was kind of the first kind of big thing that in my recollection that was using some type of AI process to automate certain things. But it's almost like they just turned the dial up to, the max and said, do your worst, because that's kind of what it did. And then I can't remember. I know Titanic came out in 4K Blu-ray, and that basically used some form of AI, but it was very minimally applied, I would say. It did kind of have a smooth appearance occasionally, but I found it overall to look pretty good. It didn't really do any weird thing with the faces or anything like that. And then Aliens came out, and there's a channel that did a whole video on like, hey, AI can ruin movies now, which is kind of where I got the title idea.
Yeah.
And it is he compares the Aliens 4K Blu-ray to the Aliens Blu-ray, and minus the difference in like color timing and color grade, there are parts of the 4K Blu-ray where faces off in the distance look like distorted. It looks weird, and then like as they get closer it'll kind of pop in, and I'm like, this can't be actually what's on the disc.
Right.
And it 100% is. It's like, I don't know how James Cameron, who's very much a perfectionist, just kind of let that be. I do want to touch on something that somebody said here. AI will only get better. Even on the basic AI setting on the Shield works pretty good, especially on YouTube content. I think AI is amazing for just basic upscaling needs. Taking a 1080p video and upscaling it to 4K. Can do a really good job. What Peter Jackson and James Cameron are doing are they're using it to basically take movies that were shot on film, especially James Cameron, and make them look as though they were shot on digital today.
Right.
And I think that's really where the problem lies, is they're being very heavy-handed with it, and these movies no longer look like the movies that we grew up with. And I know that like there's some people who like just don't give a shit about that, and that's fine. I think that like preserving the original intent, I go back to Star Wars before all the changes back in 77, at least like preserve that. I don't care, George Lucas, if you want to have another version where you're like, just go to town, do whatever you want, man. I know a lot of people will argue, well, they're movies, they're the artists, and I kind of like call somewhat bullshit on that, only because once it's released out to an audience, it's kind of like music. It takes on a form of its own. Like you no longer have complete ownership of something. It's like, well, the audience loved this version, but now you're giving them this version that's not the same. It's kind of like when you go, like, and I know people are out there, like I was thinking about this today, when you go to like a concert and the artist completely changes the song that you love.
Yeah.
And you're like I remember my sister was telling me she went to a Counting Crows concert, which my first question was why? But she went to a Counting Crows concert and the song A Long December, they played, but it's like after every verse, he would interrupt the song and go on this like little kind of speech thing. He would say something about whatever, right? So anyway, my point is we should always be given I feel like a choice would be a better thing to have here. Whereas like, okay, James Cameron, you could do what you want, but like people love this original version, and you've kind of like True Lies is a travesty that shouldn't be watched by anyone. But I really feel like we're kind of at this point, especially it's weird with James Cameron because of the whole Skynet thing. And like, I've actually read articles. He's like, I've warned people about AI. I'm like, yes, but you're using the very AI that you've warned people about. So
yeah,
I really wanted to talk about this because it is something that actually really frustrates me. I remember waiting for movies to come out on Blu-ray because I was like, I can't wait. Like, I have the DVD or I have the VHS, or this movie's never gotten a DVD release. And yeah, there were quite a few Blu-rays in the beginning of the life cycle there that were bad. And they still, will release bad ones occasionally, but like for the most part, a lot of them were, kind of ahead or a much better representation of the actual movie than like the DVD. Like I don't like there was no like not a whole lot of grain scrubbing in quite a few movies, or many of them that were released. I know that with Lord of the Rings there was a whole like green tint on the first movie that was some that was corrected, even though Peter Jackson was like, no, that was intentional. It's like, are we in the Matrix? So what's going on? I want to know, like, I've talked long enough, but I want to know like what kind of your opinion is on kind of the whole AI thing, and like, where do you fall, ELEN, on, does it bother you when like one of your favorite movies gets like just completely like destroyed with some garbage AI upscaling, or some garbage like remastering, and it's not just AI. Like the Predator Blu-ray was notoriously bad for like the amount of noise reduction that was applied to that. So like I'm just curious, like where, like what are your feelings and thoughts on it?
I mean, it kind of takes me back to I remember when Seven by David Fincher came out on DVD for the first time. This was back in the 90s. And I remember watching the extras about it. And like just the David Fincher was using the tools at the time to make the theatrical release even better for the DVD release. But he wasn't doing it in a way where he was like slapping something on that was going to affect the entire movie as a whole, right?
Yeah.
He went scene by scene, frame by frame, and certain things like because it's shot in 239:1 aspect ratio, so you got black bars on the top and bottom.
Yeah.
And he would even kind of just make slight variations to the framing of the shot. like maybe Morgan Freeman's head was a little too close to the top bar, so he would lower it just a little bit so it would just be a better framed shot. And he would he messed with the color correction a little bit, but in a way that made it enhanced and improved over the theatrical release, because back then in the 90s you're still getting film reels sent to cinemas, and that's what you're actually watching in the cinema.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was like taking, this was shot on film, but at the same time we have these editing decks that are all digital. I'm going to take these digital tools and make the most of them. And I've always been a fan of David Fincher. He is such a perfectionist. But yeah, he definitely utilizes the tools of the trade in any given era of film, you could say. And in this AI era, he still takes the time to do things in a more traditional way, even though we have these tools to make it look like this or look like that in a much quicker fashion. So I'm on his team when it comes to enhancing something that may have been shot, back in the 90s,
Yeah.
because he's going to take the time to do it frame by frame, scene by scene. Whereas I think James Cameron, because he just kind of dug himself into this hole because he's getting so busy with all of his projects. Well, pretty much Avatar nowadays. He's so busy doing all the several sequels that nobody really wants, that when it's time to go back to his other films like Aliens, like True Lies, etc.,
Yeah.
he kind of oversees it, but I mean, he makes it seem like he's overseeing like every inch and every
Like, yeah.
second.
Every frame, every piece of celluloid that they've done this transfer on.
Right. But I
Right.
don't believe that. I think he's just too busy to burden himself with that much time dedicated to a remaster, that he's just putting it in the hands of some other studio and be like, all right, let's do this and this and that, and maybe I'll see the final product, whatever. So, I mean, you and I are familiar with editing because we do it all the time for our channels. So there's like, it's the difference between color correcting every little shot as opposed to taking what you call it in a geez, I can't think of the word right now. An adjustment layer. Taking an adjustment layer and putting it over the entire film and making those AI adjustments to affect the entire film as a whole.
Yeah.
David Fincher does it shot by shot by shot by shot.
Yeah. Sometimes
James
even
Cameron,
frame by frame. Like he will
exactly.
if it needs to, if he notices something, and I think, with Fincher, his eye for detail is insane. He is notorious for doing, kind of Stanley Kubrick type takes where he's like, they're on take 99 and you're like,
yeah,
have you gotten what you like?
Right. What else can
what
we
time
do?
is it?
Like,
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
Jesse Eisenberg has said this speech 99 times.
Right. Yeah. So like I really appreciate his craft, and that he really takes the time. And because I know he's a busy guy, but at the same time, it really doesn't seem like he burdens himself with too much to a point where he can't actually take the time he needs to with something, that maybe shot a long time ago. Like, because I really wish Mindhunter on Netflix. I think he did 2 seasons of Mindhunter. I don't know if you've ever seen Mindhunter, but it
No.
is a fantastic show. It is so good. The performances are so good. The cinematography is so good. But he's just got too much other stuff going on now that he can't go back and shoot more seasons of that, which is a total disappointment because, you know, he kind of left it on a cliffhanger, the end of
Yeah.
season 2. So I'm like, damn it, I really want that to come back. But I respect his decision to just kind of say it is what it is. And maybe I'll get around to it if I have
Yeah.
time. Maybe I won't. So I would rather him do that than him try to push out a season 3 way too quickly and not spend enough time. Because that's just not his style. You know, he's so meticulous. He has to put everything he has into his works. Um, but yeah, I also I want to really make a video about this, but yeah, not only is James Cameron kind of shooting himself in the foot with, you know, all these other projects when everybody wants his stuff to be re-released and remastered on 4K. Um, you know, not only the video quality, but the audio as well. I wish he would take more time on, or at least just
Yeah.
like sound design. I honestly think that Steven Spielberg is a better all-around director than James Cameron is,
Yeah.
because you look back at Jurassic Park and how innovative that was back
Oh,
then,
for real. Yeah.
not only for the CGI aspect, but the audio aspect. He had such a good sound design team that was like, I don't know, how are we going to come up with these dinosaur sounds? Because
Yeah.
we don't know what dinosaurs sound like. And yet, the sound of the T-Rex, because the thing is, like, the sound of the T-Rex was a baby elephant that was kind of pitched down
Hmm.
afterwards. But it was this crazy sound that the baby elephant made only once. They just happened to capture it because they
Yep.
were just rolling tape or whatever, and the microphone happened to capture this really unique sound because the baby elephant didn't make it beforehand, and it never made that same sound again. So they had this one golden sound that they used as the baseline for the T-Rex sound. And, you know, decades after, you still hear that T-Rex sound in many other things involving a T-Rex, or not even a T-Rex,
Yeah.
like the kind of panther looking creature in Avatar. Um,
The name escapes me, but I know what we're talking about. Like, oh yeah,
yeah,
it's yeah.
it attacks what's his face in the first Avatar and like lifts him up by the backpack or whatever. Anyway, that
Yeah.
panther, it makes that T-Rex sound. So like in my eyes, I'm like, dude, James, I know you're like such a genius when it comes to the technology that you're using, and you're really pushing boundaries with that and motion capture, etc. But those are sounds that already exist
Yeah.
with a planet like Pandora that we've never seen before. You know, you should have taken just a little bit more time to create sounds that have literally never been heard before.
Yeah.
Somehow just figure it out.
Maybe it was his homage to Steven Spielberg. I don't know. I know that I'm pretty sure that they're
Maybe.
friends.
Yeah.
If James's ego will allow it. Um, but yeah, I'm with you. What's funny is it like talking about Jurassic Park. It's so crazy to me that that movie, you know, came out in '93, and we still, in my mind, I base all dinosaurs on how they sound on that movie. Like I'm in my head,
Mhm.
that's how they actually sounded.
Right.
Which is crazy. Which is crazy. I wanted to answer this question real quick because
Yeah.
he had asked it a while ago. I'm just now looking at it, so if I don't know the answer, Lion, I apologize. So his question was Haterade Cowboy. Jordan is a friend of mine, so go check out his channel.
Yeah.
Haterade Cowboy put out a video about a workaround with Zadoo to control his theater lights through Apple HomeKit. Is there anything like this with the Arvolution? Arvolution looks fantastic, by the way. I don't know. I should have screened this question and just messaged him in the chat. I don't have Apple HomeKit, so I'm not sure. Jordan's kind of like on a different level than I am in terms of like what is in his theater. Like he's got a lot of high end stuff, and I'm more like I don't even have separates, right? Like I'm just using an AVR right now. The separates are hopefully eventually happening, but I will actually reach out to him and see if he has anything that he maybe I could actually have him, record a little something for the review, just to kind of cover all the bases because I'm not sure about that as I don't have Apple HomeKit. But yeah, and I'll also ask him if he like wouldn't mind coming over to this stream like once it's done and post a comment to maybe address your question. Because I mean, who better to answer the question than Haterade Cowboy himself? So
that'd be cool. I know he's even got a kaleidoscope. So
yeah, he's yeah. Although the kaleidoscope just came out with the Strat V,
yeah.
which I mean, honestly, I think it's a step in the right direction for them. Not to get too off topic.
It is.
It's still out of the realm of possibility for a lot of people. $5,000 is a lot of money. $4,000. Sorry, $4,000. $4,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm looking at like the Arvolution player, which is like $900. Still a lot of money. You have to do everything yourself. You can't buy videos from a store and download them. You have to rip your own discs and stuff like that. But what I like about it, user replaceable storage. You can have up to a 32 terabyte drive in it. Super awesome. It's not a direct competition to Kaleidoscope. I've seen videos where people have claimed it to be that, and I'm like, no, that's not what its intent is. It is a media player, and it really excels really well at it. I'm gushing about it now because I'm like just using it all the time. I'm like watching movies. I'm like, oh man, I haven't watched this movie in a while, and it's just like everything just works. It just works. It's like an Apple product. I'm kidding. I want to highlight some comments because like we were talking about stuff here. So AA said Jurassic Park is the bar. We were talking about Jurassic Park earlier. And it really is. Like even the CGI looks better than some Marvel movies that come out today.
And that was over 30 years ago.
I know, right? It's actually blowing my mind. My wife and I are watching Stargate. We're on season 10 of SG1 and season 3 of Stargate Atlantis. We're kind of watching them as they aired, right? Like, episode of SG1 and then an episode of Atlantis. We're on the last season of SG1 now, which is sad. But, these are, I think we're at 2006, 2007. And man, the CGI is holding up really well on Atlantis. They obviously had a much bigger budget than SG1 did, but a lot of the there's like some space battles, and I'm like, holy shit! Like this is a TV show from damn near 20 years ago, and it looks this good. And I'm kind of like floored over it. I'm like, oh, this is great. Because I'm used to like 2006 era TV show special effects from like Smallville and yeah. I also like this comment when you're talking about Mindhunter. Willie says the mind-boggling amount of CGI in Mindhunter, loads of scenery that I totally assumed was real.
That's the other genius part about David Fincher is his use of CGI that you don't know is CGI.
I love it. Like
that's the best kind of CGI.
The best kind of CGI is a CGI that you can't even tell it's CGI, right? Like if your brain is going, that's fake, you're already out of it. You're taken out of the movie or the show that you're watching.
Right.
When you have no idea that this was a set extension or this was something done after the fact. Like, I mean, the Zodiac movie he did where they basically CGI'd downtown, was it like not downtown, like San Francisco to make it look like it did in the time period. I couldn't tell. I thought they did all these set dressings like for real.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching the behind the scenes of it and they're showing the before and after visual effects. And I'm like, it all blended so well. You didn't know. And that's my favorite kind of CGI when you have no clue. You're like, oh, this is, this was done like very, very, very well. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Yeah, Willie also says of something like over 30 films, I think Spielberg's only made 4 sequels, which speaks very well of him. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not a big sequel. I mean, I think one of the biggest franchises, right, that he's responsible for is Indiana Jones.
Right.
So it's but that's a little different. The original 3 were great. I've not seen the latest, was it Dial of Destiny? I don't know how that fared. But he actually was one of the kind of first, like after George Lucas kind of went back to ET and said, we've added some things,
Mm-hmm.
right? We've CGI'd ET to make him more emotive and more expressive. We replaced guns with walkie-talkies. We made some of the old stop motion effects of the kids on the bicycles flying through the air. We've replaced that with CGI, so now it's just a better experience. And I remember seeing that re-release in the theater and going, it just feels hollow now. Like it doesn't, it
Yeah.
lacks a lot of that charm. And he came out a couple years later and was like, yeah, we're not going to publish that anymore. Like that was a mistake. I apologize for that. I'm sorry. Like the original version of ET is the only one going forward that will be, preserved, remastered. Like it looks,
Right.
ET on 4K Blu-ray looks amazing.
Yeah.
Outside of there's only one scene near the end where they're in the van and they kind of like captured ET and they're, like his brother Michael's driving and all that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
Elliot's wearing that red hoodie. There's a couple of scenes where like, I don't know what they did to the red in that scene, but it looks
Oh,
weird. Yeah. It kind of like,
yeah.
it looks like the red from his jacket has been lifted out of I can't describe it. I'd have to look at it again. It just looks like someone put like a selection in Photoshop around it and
Mm-hmm.
kind of brought up the saturation, and it looks out of place. But outside of that, it looks amazing. Like it looks like it was shot in the 80s, which it should. It was shot in the 80s,
Yes,
you know.
exactly.
And that's kind of my whole point is like movies that were shot in the 70s and even like 30s, 40s, when I watch Citizen Kane, I don't want to watch a colorized version of Citizen Kane. Like
Yeah.
I want to watch the original. Like I want to see what Orson Welles did with what he had,
Right.
back in the day. And I think going back to what you were talking about with David Fincher is like, yeah, he uses the tools that's available to him today. But he's not looking at drastically or really even altering the original, film from 40 or 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is part of the problem with like James Cameron is when he's doing this stuff, he's fixing things similar to how George Lucas did with CGI.
Yeah.
He's fixing things that one don't really need to be fixed,
Right.
and two, this is something that he wanted to fix 30 years ago and now he has a chance to do it digitally. But like, why?
Yeah.
It's existed
Like
this long in the universe.
just let it be.
Just let it be, you know? Um, I wouldn't put it past him to go back to Titanic and, replace the stars at the end of the movie to actually match up on the night that the stars were in the sky. Cause like him and Neil,
Right.
I don't know if you've seen that thing about like Neil
Yeah,
deGrasse
yeah. Or Neil
Tyson
deGrasse Tyson. Yeah, yeah.
being like, well, that was wrong. And I think he, in one interview with James Cameron, he's like, I just don't give a shit.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I'm just kind of disappointed in like what he's done with his kind of legacy with like the 4K versions. Terminator 2 has been like one of my favorite action movies, sci-fi action movies of all time.
Mhm.
And it's never really been treated well. And I fear for the day that he actually said, we've remastered T2 in 4K. And I'm like, this is not gonna be good. Is that a threat, James Cameron? He's like, at
Right.
this point, it seems like a threat. But yeah, I think the best version I have of T2 is one of the Blu-rays before. I think it was the one that came out after the Skynet edition. It's one of
Oh,
the only ones that has like no noise reduction or
right.
anything. Um, but yeah, I think like you know, we were talking about Twister a few weeks ago, like the remastered version of it, and there are some again, I was kind of disappointed that they changed some things in the movie in terms of like the color timing, where they made some like the very first kind of scene, the storm scene, super green, right? Like
Yeah.
to the point where it was almost like Jan de Bont has sat with it for this long, and he's like, I want to overdo it now. You know, like it's so green, it's so saturated, it just doesn't look right. It's also incredibly dark. Which I get what they were trying to do, and some people have argued that the Blu-ray version is way too bright, and I'm like, okay, but there has to be like a happy medium, like,
Oh yeah.
you know, but the like that didn't bother me as much as like the added like lightning bolt sound effects. It just sounded out of place, you know. And again, it's like this stuff didn't need to be fixed. You could
Yeah.
have done a 4K rescan of it, you know, match the color to the original camera negative from back in the day, and that's it. Like that's all
Yeah.
you
Just call it
that's
a day.
that's all you really need to do, you know. I think most people don't like. I also think that a lot of people don't understand that typically there is a small amount of noise reduction that happens on 35 millimeter film scans, like just very minor, because sometimes they can be extremely grainy. You know,
Yeah.
just depends. If we look back at like Weird Science is a good example from like 85, that 4K Blu-ray is extremely grainy, and I doubt they did any type of light noise reduction. Typically, if you just do a very little bit, it can remove some of that grain without you know, if you scan it high enough, like sometimes they'll scan it at like 6K. And so that kind of have the little bit of overhead that when the detail is removed, when you're downsampling it from 6K to 4K, or in the case of like Wizard of Oz, if you're going 8K, you're not really going to notice it, right? But what happens is like some people see that and be like, oh, grain. I hate grain. I don't want to see that on my TV. It's like, I think you're in the wrong hobby.
Yeah.
You know, like this is you know, this is, I'm not like trying to gatekeep or anything like that. I never want to do that. But it's like having some sort of understanding about how like movies are transferred from film to digital can help you kind of set your expectations properly, because movies are going to have grain, especially older movies, even like newer movies that maybe were shot on film will have grain, and removing a lot of that grain will inevitably remove detail from it. That's just kind of par for the course, and I think that's what AI is trying to. People are saying, well, AI can remove the grain and keep the detail, and I'm like, it can remove the grain and then add fake detail back, but it's like a best guess of what that detail is, which is why in the case of like aliens, you get weird morphed faces off in the distance, you know. um
Yeah. I mean, it's
so
the
I
whole.
was just gonna bring this up real quick because he mentioned it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. 4K can make CGI look so much worse.
Oh
It
yeah.
can, depending on what it is,
Yeah.
and how it was treated, because a lot of CGI from back in the day was done at like sometimes like 1080. I think a lot of the early Stargate stuff, um, like even when they went over to digital on like season 7 or season 8, they were shooting in 1080p, but they were doing all of their post visual effects at like 480p, just because at the time it was much more cost effective. At 1080p, those effects would have cost, you know, 4 or 5 times as much, not just in actual money, but like render time, right? So
Right.
like, yeah, sometimes these things can be like both hit and miss. It's like, oh yeah, that obviously like that CGI is going to look worse because they finished the effects at like 720p. But anyway, you were saying, Elon, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, because right now we're just living in a time that AI enhancements, improvements, quote unquote, is still so new, but also like I just don't like how a lot of times, I mean, we're talking film, but we're also talking music. When um AI was used to upscale music to Dolby Atmos, when Dolby Atmos music first became a thing a few years ago. It sounded like crap because it was being added to the entire thing. Just this basically as if somebody just put a plug-in on it and said Dolby Atmos upmix. Just like a magic wand to just kind of go over the entire song. And of course it's going to sound like shit that way. But now people, now music studios are going back and going to catalogs that have been around for decades and really taking the time by hiring well-renowned engineers to really painstakingly put instruments in certain places, and maybe they'll have a pan this way or that way. Maybe they'll have the lead vocals in the center channel and the backup vocals in the left and right, maybe the surrounds, etc.
Yeah.
So they're really taking the time to do it, instrument by instrument and track by track, as opposed to just slapping a Dolby Atmos upmixer on everything at once.
Yeah.
And that's the way you got to do it. You got to go track by track in music. You got to go scene by scene, frame by frame, because I love watching, behind the scenes of something that is old going through some sort of restoration, because that's when you see, the time being taken, especially if it's shot on film.
Yeah.
They'll take literally a frame and they're like, okay, we got to get rid of this scratch here. We got to get rid of this little pop here, this little thing, just little blemishes, because every frame, because it's been locked in some vault for years and years and years, every frame is going to have something on it that you could probably, just kind of airbrush out, whatever. So there's no way to be able to do that by slapping some like filter on it to just get rid of all the scratches on the film for the entire movie. No, you've got to do it frame by frame. So, I mean, I know it costs more. It's labor intensive. But if you really want to do it justice, and because it's a work of art, yes. So if the director or the studio behind it or producers, whoever, are really, they not only want to just, well, what I'm trying to say is they need to focus on the art and not let it be just a cash grab.
Right.
That should be the intention behind it, as a preservation of this work of art, and not just, oh, you know how much money we're going to make on this if we release it in 4K? Let's do some quick ass job and just, get it on store shelves or download as soon as possible. Like certain directors are going to be not okay with that because it's their baby, like it's their little artistic child.
Artistic child. Artistic or autistic? No, that's a bad joke. I'm sorry, that was in poor taste. Don't cancel me. Don't cancel me. We're all friends here. So Van Williams actually asked a great question. Are you guys able to watch a movie without tearing it apart and driving yourselves crazy on the technical stuff? I can speak for myself and say that maybe. It depends. It depends. Most of the time, if I know we're specifically talking about like AI and stuff, that stuff really bothers me. Like when it's something like that is so egregious and in your face, like in terms of like let's say True Lies, where I can't watch it, then yeah, I'm taken out of it. Like I drive myself crazy because I'm like, I can't believe someone signed off on this bullshit. Like this is awful. Now, when it's like an older movie, when it's a TV show or something like that, I can tend to be much more forgiving. You know, like I love a lot of Christopher Nolan movies, but I have problems with a lot of his movies. I think he's a I think most of his movies the sound is pretty subpar most of the time. It's just loud.
Mm,
But I actually like it. To me, it's like, yeah, okay, Tenet didn't sound that great. I don't know what Nolan's thing is with people talking behind masks so much, but I enjoyed the subject matter enough to kind of overlook that. And I'm the same way with like, if a movie like Edgar Wright, one of my favorite directors of the modern time, Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, The World's End, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Last Night in Soho, which was I wasn't sure about that one, and me and my wife watched it, and I ended up loving it. I mean, Baby Driver, right? Another like his movies are like, even though they may have problems, pacing problems, whatever, he's my type of filmmaker. Like I
yeah,
will sit through his stuff and I'm not going to nitpick it because what there is to nitpick there is so minor compared to all the good stuff happening,
right.
right? And I think that is the kind of testament of like a good director and a good like filmmaker is does all the good stuff overshadow like the small things that can be nitpicked, right?
Mhm.
That's how it is for me. I also have a background in filmmaking, so it's one of those things where like I can't turn it off.
Yeah,
I'm seeing a
you've
boom mic
seen
reflect. Yeah, I see a boom mic reflection or shadow off in the corner. My brain instantly goes there
right.
on the set on that day, and some sound guys probably he probably got fired because like he was where he shouldn't be or something. Um,
You've seen how the sausage has been made.
yes, but see, I feel like that also gives that can also lend itself to giving me like a better sense of like I kind of have an idea of what it took to accomplish all of this,
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
you know? And I think there are a lot of folks out there that just have no clue that movies employ hundreds of people, right?
Mhm.
If you ever stay at the end credits and you see like best boy grip, what the hell is that? Like what's he doing?
Right.
But there's a
Yeah.
lot of people involved and like it takes a lot. And so like for all that to come together, it make like a movie that ends up being really good, or maybe even if it's like, oh, you can tell they had a lot of fun making this. I still
Mhm.
like those movies. So yeah, that's my answer. Elon, what about you? How do you feel today? No, how do you feel?
Well, just real quick, I would like to again, I think I mentioned this in a previous stream, but once again, shout out to the What Went Wrong podcast because they pretty much start every episode saying, "This is our podcast letting you know that it is almost impossible to make a movie in general, and even more impossible to make a good one." So,
Yeah,
because because they go over a lot of movies that were hits, very well received movies that almost didn't get made because of one thing or another, because there's always something that's going to go wrong during the production of a movie. It's almost never going to be just totally smooth sailing. So, yeah, it's so many different things moving all at once.
yeah,
It's a miracle that movies are even made.
yeah. And they turn
because
out
because yeah, because
the
they
way they do.
go into the background of all the stuff leading up to it, and this person was fired and this person did that, and this person almost got killed doing this or injured, whatever.
Or this person
So
died doing this. It's like,
yeah, yeah. So yeah, shout out to the What Went Wrong podcast. But I think I do. I probably don't have. Well, I know I don't have as good of an eye as you do when it comes to like, you know, flaws. Seeing boom shadows and things like that. I mean, I'll pick it up from every once in a while.
yeah,
But I mean, just because you went to film school, that technical side has been revealed to you, so you are able to pick it out more quickly than others, or at all, where other people might not even notice it whatsoever.
yeah,
Kind of like the same thing, like since I went to audio engineering school with a focus on music mixing, I can pick out certain things in a song that, will jump out to me, whereas it's a casual listener won't hear, like a particular snare sound, or, this tom sounds like this, or cymbals, whatever. Oh no.
What
Did
happened?
Brad go?
I'm still here.
Or did I go?
What, am I frozen?
Yeah. It
Can you
was
hear
on
me though?
my end, but that's probably it's
Yeah.
probably
I mean,
right.
you're not frozen for me. I can still see and hear you, and on
Oh,
my
okay.
end everything is. Did anybody if anybody's in the comments, anybody's in the comments, let us know. Did someone freeze just now? Did we both freeze? And
Because you heard me the whole time I was talking? I
I
didn't
heard you the
cut
whole
out?
time you were
Oh,
talking.
weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, the only time I'll, like, turn off a movie is, like, if I just don't enjoy the story.
Yeah.
But even then, usually stick it out. I usually stick it out to the end, just because I know, like we've already said, it's nearly impossible to make a really good movie. So I feel for the crew that took the time to try and make this a good movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty rare that I'll
Yeah.
actually stop a movie.
Unfortunately, I didn't get that in film school. I had it way before then. When I was in probably, I think it was 15, I started noticing things.
Yeah.
But film school kind of like, oh, that's what I'm looking at. Like I now knew, I'm like, oh, that's that's like we were watching an episode of Stargate Atlantis. It's like the first or second episode, and they walk by the staircase, and behind the staircase you see a light, an obvious like film light, not like just a regular old like flood lamp that they're trying to showcase something. It's part of the scene. No, it was it was like an actual film light, and they had like I can't remember the name of the tape, but it's like to shape the light. They had it's not gaff
Yeah.
tape, but it's like heat resistant, like it's not gonna, and so like it was this big kind of like dome thing, and I was like, I rewound it while we were watching it. I was like, hey, hold on, look at this. And she's like, no, I think that's part of the thing. I'm like, really? They're gonna tape this very obvious like pattern or this kind of shape to highlight this circle behind the staircase. And it was just literally maybe half a second to a second in the frame. And my
Yeah.
brain immediately was like, whoop, what's that? Like it's literally it's tuned to go there.
Right.
Um, but yeah, nobody froze, by the way. And Joel was about to add a screenshot to the montage of ELEN freezes. So,
Thanks,
um,
Joel.
but thankfully, my wife also loves that kind of stuff in
Mhm.
movies, and she's even started picking up on a lot of like we'll be watching like a TV show, and it's like whoop, boom mic, just kind of see the top of it
Right.
right there, and I'm like, to me that doesn't like that's fun to me. That's like funny. It's
Yeah.
when like the green screen's really bad on like a modern Marvel movie, and you're like, okay, half her hair is missing,
Mhm.
like or something. Like it's just completely like why did this happen? Like, come on,
Yeah.
guys. This is you're. I mean, I know why it happens is because the visual effects team is overworked, and they're doing
Yeah.
400 shots in 2 weeks, and it's like, come on, people.
Right.
Let's
Pay
see
them
here.
more.
Right, pay them more for real. Let's gonna highlight some comments here. Willie, yeah, it was a Gladiator. They ran it through. I think this was on Blu-ray, I believe, and they ran it through some type of noise reduction filter, and like literally like arrows just disappeared. And it was like, okay, yeah, I think we've got a
Yeah.
problem here, guys.
Mhm.
Um, and
Oh,
oh yeah,
here's
Kevin
Joel.
actually brings up a good taking the time to 100% 4K repair and upscale of Gone with the Wind. LOL. Yeah, Gone with the Wind is up there. I still go back. There's a documentary out on YouTube you can watch about the restoration of Wizard of Oz.
Oh.
And they actually scanned the negatives in 8K, and it was the first time this is when they were remastering it for Blu-ray, This was the first time that anyone had ever seen the rivet that's in the middle of the Tin Man's forehead.
Oh, no way.
Because the resolution was so low on VHS and DVD that you could never see it. And at first, like the person doing like the restoration, like on this specific scene when the Tin Man first shows up, thought it was like debris or something. But then she noticed as he moved, it would like move, and they realized that it was a practical makeup effect that they stuck on, and that you're just now seeing it. And that to me, I'm like, they did a great job on that. They didn't try to make it look like a brand new movie because it's obviously not. It's filmed in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
It looks amazing for what it is. And I think that's kind of like what I want for all the remasters. I don't and kind of going back to like what James Cameron is doing, I think the biggest kind of egregious part of what he's done to his movies isn't the upscale aspect, the use of AI to upscale. It is the noise reduction plus the AI guess at what was there before. Right. And someone mentioned, let me see if I can find it. It's like Ed Harris's wrinkles in here it is. Adam said, it's super hard for me not to notice when something is off, like Ed Harris's wrinkles in The Abyss. 100%. I'm the same way. If they didn't DNR The Abyss, which frankly, of all the films, The Abyss looks the best out of all the remasters, but that's not saying a lot because it still looks overly digital in a lot of aspects. But yeah, had they just like used AI to slightly sharpen it, which is still like, I wouldn't do it. It's like film, don't do that. It was a noise reduction, then AI coming in and saying, okay, let me guess what was here. And then they kind of overemphasize certain facial features like the wrinkles, or like they might sharpen the eyes a little too much where it just kind of looks like, is this CGI? Like what's happening? And I mean, technically, I guess you could say it is because it's trying to create something based off of a guess of what was there. And then they might add some light grain back in. So like you just removed all of it, added some weird facial improvements or whatever, and then added fake grain back in to make it like, why didn't you just leave the grain in and not touch it? Like, I don't understand. So like, I would think that if they dialed back the noise reduction and the AI, like the AI stuff used to like replace what was lost from the noise reduction, I think all of his movies would look a million times better. You know, that's really like the worst part. If Peter Jackson went back and did that with Get Back, I think it would look much better. It would look super grainy, but it's 16 millimeter film. We know it's supposed to be grainy.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Yeah. And I think someone said earlier that Get Back looks like this weird thing. It's a film shot in the 70s or 60s or whatever that doesn't look like it was shot in the 60s, but it doesn't look modern either. Like it's you just kind of shifted it somewhere in this like weird place where like nothing belongs.
Limbo.
It is. Jaws 3 AI gave extras in the background horror movie distorted faces. I need to look up this now because that I just want to see how bad it is. Apparently, the new Terminator transfer, Terminator 1, is just as bad as all the other James Cameron approved remasters.
Yeah.
So I guess like in terms of like remastering and stuff, we've just mainly talked about like movies. You know, there's a different thing that happens with games most of the time because games are typically made with higher assets in the beginning, right? For like PC or because consoles are normally like whatever, like it's optimized for that, but you can go above it, you know, with certain settings on PC. And then sometimes, you know, a game from like 20 years ago will get remastered with new assets, and they always try to be as close as possible to the original while also like, you know, updating it. Which is cool. And a lot of the games will have like a mode where like you can play the original just by, you know, clicking a button or selecting it in the menu.
Oh.
And so I'm like, well, that's great. It would be cool if we got like that with movies, right? Where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
we have, this unmolested 4K, remastered version of A New Hope. But hey, if you want to watch the other, like the one that George Lucas was so adamant about making, click this button or put the second disc in and watch that one. So having like both options there would be amazing. Like
Yeah.
I feel like all these conversations about like AI would just be like, or like the conversation we're having now would be like, yeah, don't watch that version because it looks weird. Watch
Mhm.
this, watch the other one. Um, but I guess my question to you is because you've had much more exposure. You've listened to a lot more Atmos music, like remixes from
Mhm.
older things that were obviously never originally intended to be listened to with
Mhm.
spatial audio, right? Like where Rush comes to mind from like, the 70s and 80s. Do you find that, I mean, obviously like some music's going to cater more to spatial audio than others.
Yeah.
And like you said, sometimes like they might just stick on a Atmos upmixing algorithm and try to create some spatial stuff. Whereas others will go back to the original files and the original tapes, transfer those over and like actually start placing instruments.
Mhm.
But do you find that for some music, even when they take the care and the time to do like an actual Atmos mix, track by track, does it enhance the experience? Does it detract from it in any way that you find? Is it too much of a departure from like the original, let's say, stereo track that was originally like mixed and mastered?
Well, I will say that the harder the distortion is in the guitars, the harder it is to translate to Atmos or
Mm,
even just surround.
gotcha.
Um, because I remember when I was just doing random Atmos just tests and things that I was listening to Smashing Pumpkins, and man, yeah, it did not sound good because the guitars were, because that's the thing about Billy Corbin, is that he tends to layer tons and tons of different takes of distorted guitars on top of each other just to make it sound fuller, whatever. Um, or take even Nirvana or something.
Yeah.
Because even then, I've seen behind the scenes of them making Nevermind, and it's like three different. You would think it's just one distorted guitar that Kurt Cobain is wailing on, but no, Kurt Cobain did 3 passes on 3 different guitars because they all had slightly different characteristics and coloration in the tones that they were producing, but those 3 tones worked very well together. Now, um, after Nevermind was made, Kurt Cobain kind of said that he didn't like how Nevermind was recorded because it was a little bit too overproduced in that way. Like, he would've preferred to have just the one guitar playing as if he was just on stage or in a, you know, booth recording his take or whatever. So, yeah, there's kind of back and forth with that. But yeah, the more guitar layers there are and the more distortion there is, it's like that's all you can hear is just the distortion. So it's really cool in stereo, but if there's that much distortion with surround sound or Dolby Atmos music, it's still all you can really hear. So everything else kind of gets muted or overtaken by the distortion anyway. So then it just kind of sounds weird,
Yeah.
because then everything is spaced out a little bit more and given a little bit more room to breathe, which kind of makes it sound more hollow. So that was my really my only take on Dolby Atmos music, is that the heavier it is and the more distorted it is, the more it doesn't translate to giving it more space. You really want to just kind of lock it down to stereo, really, because then it's just gonna be in your face, and we have two ears, so it only makes sense to have distorted guitars be in stereo. But yeah, more acoustic stuff, classical stuff, all that stuff, or even country music, because a lot of country music is recorded with kind of acoustic arrangements in mind, violins and slide guitar, acoustic guitar, that kind of thing. So yeah, those translated well with Dolby Atmos. Again, if it was mixed right. Yeah, the more intimate it is, the more localized you can make those instruments in a, left surround, right front, whatever. So that's my take.
That's your
Distorted
take.
guitars don't translate well.
Country, never heard of it. I think it was Chris Gaines who guys, you guys remember when Garth Brooks tried to turn
Yeah,
himself and
his
he put
alter
like a Trent
ego.
Reznor Nine Inch Nails wig on, and
Mhm.
yeah. I actually just found some screenshots of some Jaws 3 AI horror stuff. You guys want to see it? Because I was like, this cannot be real. Here, let me. Wow, I tried to find some of Terminator. No, I selected video file. I don't want to do that. Share screen. So what the hell is this? I don't know if it's gonna not zoom. Okay, it's not gonna zoom on this side. But can you see this, Elon? Like, I somehow lost your audio. I don't know what's happening.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, it looks like she's almost like a skeleton face. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. I don't know if this is gonna show up well, but this is another crowd shot. Um, I think I've zoomed in as far as I can. Yeah, I'm like, what? Oh, there we go. There we go. I can use a trackpad
Aha.
on my.
Yay.
I mean, look at these weird ass
Oh,
faces. Like,
no.
let's do the same thing on the other one. Hold on. So, like, here, her face is like all funky, right? This is
Yeah.
AI at work, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Um, and then look at this little girl's face down here. What the hell is this? This is like some. So I this is on like a Reddit, and someone said that this looks like it was out of like a sequel to The Ring. You remember in The
Right.
Ring where like, you saw the pictures of their faces and they were all distorted.
Yeah.
Um, that is wild. Like I cannot believe that. Oh, man. Yeah. So this is kind of like what we're talking about here with this stuff. It's
Yeah.
like that's not
It is.
good. Let me see if I can.
No.
I'll see if I can find an aliens one. Because someone mentioned Vasquez. I can't remember her name, but yeah, there's a part in the background where she's like literally her face morphs.
Oh,
Um,
no.
4K AI Reddit. Let's see. I'm
Whoa.
trying to find like some pictures. I should have done this before we started. Um,
Hey, it's all good, man.
yeah, like I don't want to show a video
Oh,
because like
just hanging out.
what I can do is not doing that. I was like, that's not right. I wanted to link to this video. Jesus. Jesus. Open. Okay, yeah, here it is. It's by a channel called Narrow. Here, we'll add the stage here.
Narrow.
So this is his video. I'm not gonna play it just because like, go over and check his stuff out. And basically, I like how I paused it on this picture of the horse with like giant. Anyway, But yeah, you could see like he basically goes over everything and like breaks it down. This is what I watched, and I could not believe this was real. And then I watched, yeah, your video just cut out. That's weird.
Yeah. Is that the Peter Jackson restored war footage thing?
I think so, yeah. Which
Yeah.
actually better than all the Beatles stuff.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm just like, this can't be good. This can't be real. And so we watched the 4K Blu-ray of Aliens, and halfway through I was like, let's watch the Blu-ray. I can't do some of the Dolby Atmos upmixing stuff or like the Dolby Atmos track, but I'd much rather have the visuals of the Blu-ray even without the HDR, because there were times where I was like, faces look weird, like it looks strange. Here, let me stop sharing this here. But yeah, Justin Laird has a question. Oh, welcome, Justin. Thank you for joining. Unrelated question, but what is the model of your TV stand? I have the same TV floor mount as you, and I'm looking for a media shelf. I think that's aimed at me. I don't remember. We got it on overstock.com. I'll try to find it. I took a picture of it. It's not like a solder TV stand. I think it was around $200. But it was normally like 400.
The one that you recently put in?
No. We had this was like, we bought the TV. I think he's talking about the entertainment stand that I have, not the TV floor mount, which was recent, but the entertainment stand that I bought like a couple years ago when we purchased a video, like a Vizio 85-inch TV, and I needed like a bigger stand that could facilitate the TV stand on it. I didn't have like a floor mount or anything like that at the time. So yeah, I'm trying to remember what it was. See if I can just
Ashley Furniture.
It was not Ashley Furniture.
No.
So I think we purchased that TV in 2021. So this is what's nice about having the same type of phone and you just keep your pictures on it. So I know we sold the Vizio before we moved because we just had so many issues with the firmware on that crap. No, yeah, never buy a Vizio TV, guys. Or Samsung. No, I'm kidding. Like Samsung's never going to work with me. Where the hell is it? Sorry, this is very riveting content, guys. I apologize for
where is it?
Not having it here. Where are you?
Yeah. Undoppable has a good comment. AI ruining movies. Meanwhile, 60-year-old Lawrence of Arabia is still the best looking 4K to date.
I mean,
yeah,
it's not wrong.
Yeah. Because they took the time, man. And it's super cinema scope where you only see like this much and it pans across the whole screen. No, just kidding. It is really cool though.
I found it. I don't know.
Just kidding.
That is really weird. That's here. I'm going to try to airdrop it to myself and then I'll share it on the stream. Let's see if that'll work.
I'm gonna airdrop it to myself so I can show you all.
So what this looks like is this. Come on, there we go. And will it waffle? Okay, yeah, it will. Okay, so here it is. Yeah, it was just this farmhouse wood TV stand. 5-inch thingamabob. Come on. There we go. So yeah. And what's crazy is what I said was crazy was like it was sold and shipped by Fit UI's Inc. I guess that's how you say it.
Yeah.
which is the manufacturer of the TV floor stand that I bought a few months ago. And this was this was from March 6, 2021. I just thought it was funny. So yeah, that's the stand. I would say it's a great stand. It has some slight warping to it, and it came like that, which is probably why it was so cheap and we got it on overstock. It's not enough to really make me question its structural integrity. Although getting the TV off of it, I feel much better about it. It
Yeah.
has two little like feet underneath here. They're like plastic. I ended up when I had the TV on top of it, because the OLEDs weigh like quite a bit, and all of the stand is like kind of all the weight is right here. I ended
Yeah.
up buying some, like, I think 1.5 or 2-inch PVC pipes, or just like a single piece, and then cutting it to add a little more support. So like I painted them black and just kind of shoved it under there. And that added a little more support. The only thing is, like, I've noticed, like, on this edge over here, I don't know if you can see the mouse, it is slightly not level.
Oh
And that's
no.
just due to the top. But other
Yeah.
than that, like, it's great. I think it was well worth it. If you can, I don't know if they even make this anymore.
Probably
Yeah,
not.
who knows? Who knows? But yeah, yeah, there's so many. I mean, so like we've been talking about AI upscales and how it can like ruin movies and TV shows and stuff. You know, some people are mentioning like 2001. 2001 looks amazing on 4K Blu-ray. It's
Yeah.
I mean, when you take the care that Stanley Kubrick took to make the film and that it is preserved properly, you don't need AI upscaling to make that film look good.
No.
Even those sections are grainy, and sometimes it may not be like some of the effects may stand out as kind of like a testament to when the film was made. That's also part of the charm. And like you know, again, I think a lot of filmmakers, even though they have the tools now to fix things that bother them, at the end of the day, it's like, well, people have lived with this for 20, 30. I mean, in the case of like 2001, I mean, that movie is just, like, made in the 60s, right? Like, am I crazy in thinking that it was made in the 60s?
I think it was early 70s,
Let's see.
or maybe it was.
I thought it was like 68. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
1968.
68. Yep.
1968. So a
Yeah. Yeah.
film, that is, for all intents and purposes, almost 60 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So, and I think Adam has said this again or before, that the grain is the image, no grain, no picture. And that's
Yeah.
exactly right. Like, it's the amount of, I mean, we even see it in the digital world in terms of like noise, and then we'll see like noise reduced footage where they try to clean it up. And it's like, just let the grain be the grain.
Yeah.
Elon, I know you also shoot with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, and sometimes when you're pushing that ISO up a little too high in a darker environment, you can see some grain in the image, right?
Oh yeah.
And if you're not careful, if you don't turn off the noise reduction, it can kind of smooth things out and it doesn't look quite as good or as sharp. And so I'm just like, you know what? Let the grain. I mean, this is going on YouTube anyway, right? Like, we're not
Yeah.
we're not making like a high budget, feature film or something. But I'm like, that's like, you're scrubbing away that detail. And yeah, things can get better to a point where like you can remove some of the grain, but I'd just rather not even deal with it. Because honestly, most of the time you're gonna that like whatever you're using, like Neat Video, denoiser or whatever, that's like a popular one. It will take a long ass time for like a 10-second clip. And at the end of the day, it's like, I'd rather just export it and be done.
Yeah.
And people can deal with the grain. The thing is, they're not gonna look at it and go, I can't tell if that's a speaker or subwoofer, or if that's what am I looking at. They could just, oh, that's okay. Like I'm dealing with some of that a little bit with some of the Audio Advice Live footage, because these are dimly lit demo rooms, and I have a light on, but if I flood it with too much light, it's going to kind of change the vibe, the aesthetic of the room, right?
Right.
Or like it might just, something might be glossy, and I don't want to see a big ass light reflection in it, so I tone it down a little bit.
Mhm.
But I'd rather deal with a little grain and still have all that detail there than just scrub it away. And I think that's kind of what some of these James Cameron types are. They got it in their head at some point that they hate grain, and they want everything to look like a Avatar or something. And
Yeah.
as visually striking as Avatar can look, at the end of the day, it's predominantly all digital, all created in a computer mostly.
Right.
And it's like, okay, but you shot this on film in the 80s, and you use like cheap film stock because that's all you could afford.
Mhm.
Let it be what it's going to be.
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys for coming to my TED Talk. That's what it feels like.
Man.
Yeah, but I think my point was like, yeah, there's some poorly remastered films, but there are also quite a few movies that have come out on 4K Blu-ray that look amazing. The
Yeah.
original Ghostbusters films,
Mhm.
excellent remasters, full of grain, but it is filled with detail in a way that you've never seen it before like that.
Mhm.
And I think that there's like, Sony has a pretty good track record of treating their older catalog titles with care.
Yes.
And I think that is really the ultimate goal, is to kind of just get out of the way of just let the film be, and hit the microphone and don't and yeah. Let's see. Oh, go ahead. You're gonna say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna start singing "Let It Be"
Oh, and then
and
the
then get a
Beatles are
copyright strike.
yeah, right. They're gonna take all the ad revenue. Undoppable actually brings up a good point. The counterpoint is a movie like 28 Days Later, shot on the worst cameras available on purpose for the aesthetic. It will never get 4K, and the Blu-ray was horrible. AI might be able to do something. I would. So I'm with you there. Yeah, it was shot at 480p on like those old style like flip cameras that were very popular in that era, right?
Mm.
And they could buy like a ton of them, which is why they were able to shut off or shut down the bridge by Big Ben and everything, to get those shots of
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy walking through an empty London,
Mhm.
because they had like, I can't remember, it was like 10 or 12 of those cameras just everywhere, and they were able
Right.
to shoot an hour and have all of this footage. The end of the movie is shot on 35 millimeter film,
Right.
and it looks drastically different even on the Blu-ray. You can tell when they switch, right? Like it looks like film. What I will say is I don't know that Danny Boyle would actually want it to look any different than it does.
Yeah.
And that's, again, that he chose that at the time. Don't change it now. Like, it's like, it's lived this way for 20 years, pretty much. It's like, it's fine.
Yeah.
You know? One of the best soundtracks to a movie. I love John Murphy's score of that movie, even though it's so simple. It's like 4 notes, 5 notes. It just works, man. That "In the House in a Heartbeat" song. I mean, come on.
Come
Come
on.
on. Yeah, well, The Shining does look incredible too. It's hard to believe that, again, that movie was, filmed in the 70s, and
Yeah.
Wendy, darling, light of my life. It's a great movie that I cannot bring my wife to watch. She refuses to watch it with me. It's too,
Really?
yeah, it's too like, I think it's just like the vibe of the movie and the character and the way like he like just goes crazy and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. I mean,
Along with
it's not like gory or anything. It's a psychological thriller. It's
yeah, I also really like The Shining too. Be Shininger. I feel like that was a missed opportunity, Stanley. Come on, Stanley Kubrick. Arise from your grave and film another Shining movie. Jack Nicholson can come out of retirement.
The Shiningest.
The Shiningest, yeah. And then they did that horrible made for TV movie because Stephen King hated Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining. So he's like, I can do better, and then did like a made for TV movie that was awful with Steven Weber. And yeah, it was anywho, yeah. Book was great though.
I never saw it. Wasn't Doctor Sleep like a prequel?
Yeah, so Doctor Sleep was well, it wasn't a prequel so much as a sequel. So for those that aren't aware, Doctor Sleep was directed by Mike Flanagan, who's done Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, a lot of stuff I've really liked. And then the last one he did, the I can't remember what it was called. It's about the rich family of just a bunch of assholes that all died in House of Usher.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was disappointed it wasn't about the artist Usher, but instead about this fan.
I know, right?
But yeah, it kind of bridges the gap between the book and Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, while kind of appeasing both kind of schools of thought. Stephen King actually really liked Doctor Sleep, the movie. Even though he didn't care for like Stanley Kubrick's version of his characters and how he rewrote it. Yeah, it was it's a great, if you've never seen Doctor Sleep, highly recommend it. The extended version that's almost like 20 or 30 minutes longer adds so much to it that I would recommend watching that over the theatrical, because it just kind of fills in a lot of the plot points and kind of adds more weight to the characters and some of the things that happen. And yeah. Cool.
So you've been watching Stargate recently?
Yes.
Is that pretty much all you've been watching recently?
Yeah, I mean, we've been going through the Beverly Hills Cop movies leading up to Axel F. Which we haven't, right? Which we haven't gotten to yet. And the reason like I brought that up is my wife, she's like, it's probably been 20 plus years since I've seen any of the Beverly Hills Cop movies. So I'm like, well, let's watch them. So we watched the first one, then I had to go on the trip and everything. So we're gonna watch the second. The second is my third, but the second is my favorite of all of them. That's just like I think Tony Scott did that one, so it's like very much like a super stylized version of it. Just turned into Jiminy Glick there for a second. But yeah, I've been watching that. Watch something. I think we were gonna watch that new movie If or whatever with Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, CG character.
Yeah.
Imaginary friend. If
yes. And then I do want to see the new Mad Max Furiosa. Whatever it's called.
Finally, I was supposed to get that Saturday because I pre-ordered it, and it finally came today. So I guess I'll be watching that tomorrow.
Hey, I do wonder.
It came out on physical media today.
Yeah.
So I was a little disappointed that I couldn't get that video made in time for today because it arrived in my mailbox today.
What the hell, man? Come on. Yeah, I just got it today as well. Yeah. I'm curious. Hold hold on. He says Furiosa is a visual and LFE treat. So,
Yay.
I mean, I didn't expect anything less than Fury Road levels of awesomeness in terms of visual and you know, visual and auditory bliss.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if anything's changed since like, because I remember watching something from George Miller talking about how they approach the 4K HDR version of the movie of Fury Road and how they kind of overdid the colors on purpose and really
Mhm.
made it super vibrant and super saturated. And I'm wondering if he has that same aesthetic here. Because there were like a lot of
I'm sure.
shots I remember in like Fury Road that were I think they had like they looked like they were shot on GoPros, which probably, I mean, they probably had some stuff that was shot on GoPros, right? But yeah,
Mhm.
I'm curious to see if like, I know he's a big fan of like um under cranking the camera, so like things seem
Mhm.
sped up in certain parts, and
Yep.
um again, this is all part of the aesthetic of the movie, and not like people are like something's wrong,
Right.
you know.
That's his style.
That's
Yeah.
his style, and thankfully, it's like a watchable style. It's not like the Resident Evil movie I mentioned a few streams ago where I had to turn it off because literally I don't think any shot lasted more than a second.
Mhm.
It was so bad. Um, right? But yeah, I was like, I don't know what's happening in this fight scene. Ooh, I'm see this is why I bought the disc. It has an hour long behind the making of on the disc. It's very detailed and you get a kick out of it.
Yay.
I I mean, I've said it before. I don't know if I said it on stream recently, but when I got the extended editions of The Lord of the Rings, I didn't watch the movies first. I watched the appendices first, which is, you know,
Mhm.
the super long documentary on the making of. I was just fascinated how they made these movies, you know, and I love that stuff.
It's the greatest. The appendices is like the greatest behind the scenes ever in
Yeah.
my mind, just because there's so much. It covers everything from pre-production to after it was released, or they were all released. Unbelievable.
It is so well done.
Yeah,
Like it's
so well
it
done.
the I would almost say like I wonder if the effort putting that together was more than making the movies. Or if not the
Probably.
same,
It's
'cause
just
it was
yeah.
a lot of it was a lot of stuff to
Mhm.
kinda go over, and it blew my mind.
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking, you know, 2000, you know, like 2001, you know?
yeah.
It's like seeing the like, almost archaic technology that they used
Mhm.
to achieve some of this stuff is mind-boggling to me. Um,
Yeah.
you know, it's kinda like watching the Light and Magic on Disney Plus and seeing how they really had to think outside the box and how to get a lot, like, how to do all of these shots that are just we take it for granted today of how hard
Oh,
this
yeah.
stuff was, and these people were like pioneers. It's like, well, if we just cheat it this way, like, it'll look good and nobody will notice,
Right.
and I love that stuff. I love it.
Love it
I
as well.
think, yeah, I think we're gonna wrap up here, guys. We got about we normally try to keep it around 2 hours. If you have any quick questions here at the end, go ahead and put a queue up. Let us know. I know it's time to leave when both Elon and myself start yawning. Not that we're bored, but we're just tired. Dude, I've been sleeping so much. I've like this COVID fatigue shit is like
Oh, yeah.
real. I'm like, I shot a video Sunday and I was setting up lights in the theater room to shoot in there. And I was like, after half an hour, I'm like, I gotta sit down. This is ridiculous. And I know I'm out of shape, but I'm like, it's never been like this,
Yeah.
you know? And so finally I'm kind of back to having energy throughout the day where I'm not taking nap every, you know, 4 hours or something.
Right.
Crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, it feels good to be back. Um Hopefully this will continue being a weekly thing. Um, you know, we've kind of had some bumps in the road trying to get everything, you know, things just come up, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just life. Um,
Summertime, it's crazy,
yeah. And I will be glad when winter's here because I hate this Florida heat, man. It was like 96 degrees out today. It was redonkulous. Got a quick question for you, Elon, from Undoubtable. Do you genuinely see a place for the new JBL receiver? It looks terrible in my opinion.
Oh, like the new MA receivers? I mean, yeah, I don't know what JBL was thinking. I mean, first of all, it's Class D amplifiers, which can be great, save space, it's lighter, you can move it around more, whatever. Um, but I mean, it doesn't have a lot of features. Doesn't have a lot of connectivity, and yeah, it just kind of seemed like why did you decide to release those now when they're not even keeping up with the competition technically? So I don't really get it. Plus, I don't think any of them have a full set of pre-outs. Yeah, go to the back of it.
Whoa.
Yeah, none of them. Even the 9 channel has
Yeah, they're just all
like you have to use the internal amps and that's it.
for $1,600.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no way. This is a 9.2. JBL's out of
I
their
mean,
minds.
sure, it's, HDMI 2.1, 8K, whatever, but just kind of too little, too late, Just
I mean,
kind of just stick with your JBL synthesis and just put more
yeah.
money into those or something.
And I
Yeah.
wonder, like, I guess the form factor is kind of like one of their bigger selling points, I would assume.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, for $1,600, you could get a
Isn't that
host
what
of.
the 3800H is? Isn't that
Let's see.
$1,600 or 1,700 maybe?
See if we can bring it up here. I thought it was closer to 18. This is sponsored. Oh, it's on sale right now too for $1291.99 at Best Buy.
Dang. Yeah, does it say a normal retail price underneath right there?
$16.99. So for
Yeah,
$100 more, you get
$100 more.
arguably one of the most fully featured receivers for the price point. You get a full set of, you get pre-outs, you get all of this stuff. Obviously, it's a bigger box.
Mhm.
Um, I mean,
4 subwoofers. I mean, come on.
four subs, Dirac functionality. I think you have to buy Dirac,
You do.
but
Yeah.
still,
Still, it's there. It's an option.
yeah, I would not spend money on the JBL. JBL's had this thing going on for a while now. I think that it almost feels like they're pricing themselves way too high for what they're offering
Mhm.
compared to the competition. Almost like they're like, well, we use higher quality components and we do this, and it's like, okay, like,
But
yeah, I
do
know you're
you?
right. I'm like, I know your JBL synthesis is like, kind of like top high end, whatever.
Yeah.
I've only heard one JBL synthesis system, and it was at a trade show, so it's like I can't tell
Yeah.
you it sounds great, you know. Um, but gosh, like, I mean, yeah, you can get basically the 3800H right now from Best Buy for $1,300 in the United States at least,
Mhm.
and you could take that extra, $300 and put it towards something. You could buy the Dirac license
Yeah,
for that
exactly.
amount. Like you
Mhm.
could, I mean, there's so yeah. I mean, yeah, there are, mate. It doesn't make sense to me. Just
Yeah.
like sixteen hundred
Yeah.
dollars for this thing.
CES 2023, Chana and I were invited to the Harman experience,
Uh-huh.
and Harman is the one who owns JBL.
Yeah, yeah,
And because they had this big arena basically of just like several different um, booths, and it was all like away from everything else. It wasn't at the convention center. It was at like this hotel.
Yeah.
So we go there, and I remember they had a JBL synthesis room. So they took the time to put some acoustic treatment up and really dial it in and stuff. And they had all the in-wall JBL synthesis speakers and
Yeah.
subwoofers. And they played for a demo. They played the um, Top Gun Maverick scene
Okay.
where he's Maverick himself is in the plane, and all the youngins are like, "No way he can do that!" You know, he's showing him up and whatever. But I remember walking away from that demo, and I was like, "Those subwoofers did not hit as hard as I wanted them to, like at all. Like they
Yeah.
needed to bump up the subs or do something because it didn't really have that impact that the Jets should have."
Right. Right.
Um, But then they played. I told them just as a request, I'm like, "Can you play the, racing scene from Ready Player One?" And, again, the subwoofers and the LFE channel were not bumping as hard as I would like, but it sounded way better than that particular demo scene from
Yeah.
Top Maverick, or at least more immersive and just a better showcase of what the JBL synthesis speakers could actually do. And I even told the guy who was running the room, I was like, "Dude, you need to start playing the racing scene as opposed to this Top Gun Maverick scene because it's really letting these speakers shine way more."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, maybe I'll consider that." And then as we're going to the other rooms in this Harmon experience, time and time again, I just hear the same Top Gun scene playing over and over
Yeah.
again. Because, more clients are coming in and out, whatever. And yeah,
Yeah.
he kept playing the Top Gun scene. I'm like, "Dude,
Uh,
clearly you don't know what you're doing. You're
yeah.
some guy in a suit."
Yeah. I mean, when I hear a system that is X amount of dollars more than, like, say, the system down the hall, and this system sounds worse than the system down the hall,
Mhm.
I'm like, Like
Yeah.
we at Audio Device Live, Focal had a big setup, and we actually did a video for them, and
Mhm.
I really like Focal speakers. I really like the way they look. They are really pricey when you
Yes.
start getting into like the Sopras and the Utopia line.
Mhm.
You're talking to a guy who has entry level speakers right now, and these are just like $75,000 for the pair. Excuse me, what?
Right.
I'm not hearing 75 grand. I don't. And that's nothing against Focal in general, but like I can't imagine spending 75 grand on a pair of speakers.
No.
When that's like a third of the cost of the house we live in. Like,
Mhm.
sorry. We
That's
got to be realistic here. But SVS was at the show, and I'm a fan of SVS. I've been open about how I like them. I like their customer service. I've never had a issue with them
Mhm.
in terms of like owning their products, which I've had a couple of their products I've owned for like 20 years,
Yeah.
or just like reviewing stuff. They've been super easy to work with. All the feedback I've ever given to them, like they've taken. They've never been like, well, we're never going to work with you again because you didn't review this. Like, you didn't give it a 5-star review or whatever.
Right.
Which I mean, some companies are like that, unfortunately. But
Mhm.
they had a room there, and it was a modest setup. I think it was I might not be remembering this correctly. I think it was like a 5.2.2.
Yeah.
So it was like their new Evolution towers. They're like top end ones, so they're
Yeah.
5,000 a pair.
Pinnacle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it was a
Oh,
Pinnacle.
no, no, no. But yeah, I know what
But
you're talking
yeah,
about.
there's that, the new Evolution Center and the Evolution like side surrounds, which I
Mhm.
think they had kind of like now, yeah, I think it was 5 because they had it positioned near the rear of the room to kind of, stimulate more of an arc, so it was kind of filling in that space for side
Mhm.
and back surrounds. And then they had their new elevation. Um, I don't know if the evolution. I can't remember, but honestly, You know, they had, I think, two PB, I think PB or SB 3000. Sorry,
Yeah.
two of those. And honestly, for the amount of money they had in that room, I would have taken that system over the Focal, only because the amount of money, I would spend and the performance I would get.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you can't beat this. Like, you can't, like, this is really hard to beat. The only other room that came close was the definitive technology room,
Mm.
because they had like a 7.2.4 setup. And with the receiver, the total price of the room was 12 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not minus the video side, but just for the audio.
Sure. Yeah.
That's like two of their DN15 subwoofers, and they were all like in-wall like speakers,
Yeah.
which really surprised me. The sound quality, but I was like, 12 grand gets you all of this, whereas like 75 grand gets you two of the Utopias. Like, granted, the
Yeah.
Utopias are like a lifestyle product, right? Like, they're
Yeah. And they're meant for stereo, like
right,
hi-fi.
right, but they can be used in a multi-channel system as well. But
Sure.
my point is, there comes a point for me where, you know, I'm always very budget conscious. You know, and yeah, I think spending money. Oh, thank you. Turn that. I got sidetracked with talking about speakers and stuff. Yeah, I just think that, like, you really, you know, there's no, like, there are speakers that are like just way out of someone's price range.
Mm.
Even if, you know, Focal were like, well, we want to send you the Utopias to review. I'm like, I'd be scared to even take delivery of these things. You know,
Mm.
do I have to sign a waiver saying that if I damage them, I have to pay for them? I was like,
Right.
I don't have 75 grand to just throw around.
Yeah.
So I think, like, my whole point is, like, yeah, you know, JBL's kind of in that, with their synthesis stuff, it's not quite Focal expensive, but it's still a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, are you getting that big return? Like, what's the price to performance? Like, per dollar, what are you getting that you're not getting with someone else or
Mm.
with some other brand? Because I'm brand agnostic. I don't care, right? Like, if like it's this XYZ brand over this ABC brand, what is the better performance per dollar?
Yep.
I cannot be bought. Thing. Like, you can't pay me enough money to be like, yeah. And I know I just said just over here gushing about SVS. They've never paid me anything, by the way. I'm just a
Right.
fan of their customer service and their products. Um, I don't know if this is asking me what speakers I'm using right now as your fronts. Pioneer Andrew Jones, FS52 buddies.
Yay.
Yeah, they're like $150 or $60 each.
Mm.
Same with the center, the CS22. It was like $80, $90. 4 sets of the BS22 bookshelves for the side and back surrounds, and then the Atmos or the height channels are Appearing Audio Clearest 6Cs. Yeah. So very, I haven't added up the total of all of that. Oh, and then the subwoofers, I'm using 2 SVS PB4000s and 2 PB3000s. So 4 total. And then 11 by 12 room. I have a lot of overhead, basically. Watching Dune Part 1 when, like, they get in the ornithopters for the first time. It's like,
Yeah.
I've never watched the whole movie, and I need to. I need to watch both of them, because the bass and just the overall sound design of those movies is incredible.
Mm.
Yeah, so I'm always on the lookout for, like, what's the next, like, kind of theater upgrade. I do want to replace the speakers eventually.
Sure.
But yeah, I think the room shakes and you can't hear a single word. LOL. That was the old me, like, from 10 years ago. That would have been. Now I have everything dialed in, with a nice curve. I think the bass is maybe boosted on the low end by like 5 dB or so, 5 dB or 6 dB. Nothing crazy. There's, like, basically my slope is like, it starts here with the bass and tapers all the way down to like 20K. So there's like I think there's a 7 dB difference from like
Right.
20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So like it's just kind of a nice slope. I found over the years that I started turning the subs down more and more. Because I was like, this is too much bass. Like I want to hear the detail in the bass, and having those 4 subwoofers, using a mini DSP and REW, and then also having multi QX on top of that, really helped dial everything in to like the nth degree, where like I have great sub to speaker integration on every single speaker. It's never going to be 100% perfect, because like you're putting speakers and subs in a room, but I don't have any massive dips around the crossover region.
Nice.
Everything's pretty flat up to like 250 in my room on most of the speakers, except for the Atmos, just because those are, I need to add some maybe look at getting some like backer boxes for those, because they drop off hard at 120 hertz.
Right.
So anyway, I've gone on long enough. ELEN, do you have any final closing thoughts here?
Just do it right. Just take your time, do it right. Who cares about cash grabs?
Yeah.
It's about the art. So just let art be art.
Make art now.
Right.
Like the channel. What's his name? Josh. Yeah. Don't rely on AI to fix all your mistakes that happened 30 plus years ago. Just let it be what it is. There's going to be grain in your movie. James Cameron, there's going to be grain in there. You shot it on film. Sorry. Can't change that.
Let Avatar look like that because you shot it completely digitally.
Yep.
But let all your other stuff look the way it's supposed to, because obviously you didn't shoot it in the same year you shot Avatar. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, thank you guys so much for joining. We are going to hopefully be back next week, unless something catastrophic happens and I turn into
a pumpkin,
a wraith from Stargate. Start feeding off of other humans. But yeah, we will be back next week. And yeah, you guys have a good night. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out. Appreciate it.
Thanks. See you next time.
You can see the thumbs up. Yeah. See you next time, guys. Bye.
Bye. Don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to get notifications. Don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to get notifications. Don't forget. If you forget,